This story took place in the picturesque city of Florence, Italy, where the wealthy businessman Enrico di Luca lived. Enrico was known for his fortune and influence, but also for his strict temperament and traditional views on life. He had one son, Leonardo di Luca, 25-year-old who had been educated in the best schools and surrounded by all the luxuries money could buy. However, Leonardo was different from his father. While Enrico valued wealth and status, Leonardo had a kind heart and a free spirit. He enjoyed art, music, and was interested in understanding the stories of ordinary people, those who lived on the streets of Florence. Leonardo was beloved by many, but his compassionate attitude was not well regarded by his father, who wanted his son to follow in his footsteps in business and keep the family at the top of Italian society. Despite all their differences, Leonardo always respected his father, trying as much as possible to please him. But Enrico's pressures began to increase when he decided it was time for Leonardo to marry. For Enrico, his son's marriage to a young woman from a wealthy and influential family was the next logical step to ensure the continuation of the Di Luca dynasty. Leonardo, on the other hand, did not believe in arranged marriages, and even less in marrying for convenience. He wanted to marry for love, something his father considered youthful foolishness. The tension between father and son grew with each passing day until an incident changed the course of their lives. One day, during a solitary walk through the historic streets of Florence, Leonardo crossed paths with a young beggar named Sofia. She was a familiar figure in the city, always sitting at the same corner, begging for alms to survive. Sofia had a sad expression, but at the same time, there was something in her eyes that captivated Leonardo. He stopped to talk to her and was fascinated by her intelligence, humor, and kindness, despite life's hardships. When Enrico discovered that his son was getting close to a beggar, he was furious. To him, this was a disgrace and a threat to the De Luca family legacy. As punishment, Enrico decided that Leonardo should marry Sofia, believing that this would drive his son away from any romantic notions and make him understand the weight of family responsibility. However, Enrico was not prepared for what this decision would set in motion. When Leonardo was confronted by his father with the order to marry Sofia, he was stunned. He couldn't believe that his own father would force him to make such a drastic, unjust decision as a form of punishment. Yet, Enrico's firm and uncompromising stance made it clear that this was not a suggestion, but a non-negotiable demand. Leonardo found himself in a deep dilemma: obey his father and sacrifice his own convictions, or resist and face Enrico's wrath, risking disinheritance and losing everything he knew. Sofia, in turn, was confused and frightened by the marriage proposal. She knew she wasn't part of Leonardo's world and feared that this marriage was just a cruel joke by the rich. However, when Leonardo visited her again, he explained his situation and asked her to trust him. He promised to treat her with respect and dignity, regardless of the circumstances. Despite her doubts, Sofia accepted the marriage proposal, and the two were married in a modest ceremony, far from the lavish weddings Enrico had imagined for his son. The news of the marriage quickly spread through the high society of Florence, causing shock and scandal. Enrico's friends and acquaintances began to question his sanity and the Di Luca family's position in society. Enrico, however, was convinced that this mistake would soon be corrected, and that Leonardo would eventually separate from Sofia, learning a valuable lesson. However, as time passed, something unexpected began to happen. Leonardo and Sofia, united by unusual circumstances, started to develop a genuine bond. Leonardo began to see Sofia not just as the beggar his father wanted him to despise, but as a strong, intelligent woman with a big heart. They started spending more time together, and Leonardo discovered that Sofia had a special talent for painting. She was a gifted artist who, despite living on the streets, had never abandoned her passion for art. Leonardo decided to help her develop this talent by introducing her to local galleries and promoting her work among the artist friends he knew. Soon, Sofia's paintings began to catch the attention of art critics, and she became a sensation in Florence. What started as a forced and loveless marriage turned into a creative and emotional partnership that surprised everyone, including themselves. During this time, Sofia met Chiara, a young gallery owner who became Sofia's biggest supporter. She saw Sophia's potential from the start and worked tirelessly to promote her work. Chiara also became a close friend of Sophia, offering emotional support and helping her adjust to the new world she now lived in. Enrico had a longtime friend named Giovanni, a very wealthy local businessman but of dubious character. He was a cynical man who viewed Leonardo's marriage to Sophia as a joke. However, seeing Sophia's rising popularity and Leonardo's transformation, he began to question his own beliefs about what truly matters in life. On the other hand, Enrico, upon seeing Sophia's unexpected success and the growing bond between her and Leonardo, started to feel a mix of pride and bitterness. He had never expected that his punishment would result in something positive, and this made him reflect on his own choices and values. As time passed, the relationship between Leonardo and Sophia grew in trust and affection. They formed a strong partnership both in love and in art, and Sophia became a respected figure in Florence's art scene. But as in every story, an unexpected event was about to change everything. Let's play a little prank on those who only read the comments. They won't understand. Comment pizza in the comment. Only those who read up to here will get it. And now, let's continue with the story. At a gala night in Florence, where Sophia's works would be exhibited alongside renowned artists, Enrico decided to make a surprise appearance. He had spent the last few months avoiding the couple, unwilling to admit to himself that he was beginning to admire Sophia's resilience and talent. However, that night, something inside him made him want to see his daughter-in-law's success up close, perhaps for the first time without the burden of prejudice. During the exhibition, one of Sophia's paintings, depicting a female figure in a desolate landscape, caught the attention of a renowned international art critic. The critic was impressed by the emotional depth of the work, asked Sophia about her inspiration. Sophia, with her calm and humble voice, revealed that the figure in the painting was inspired by her own mother, a woman who, before dying, fought against poverty and social injustice, but always maintained her dignity and hope. Enrico, who was listening to the conversation from a distance, felt a shock upon hearing this story. The figure in the painting somehow seemed familiar to him. As he moved closer to the canvas, he was paralyzed when he recognized something in the woman's features. He realized that the figure was a representation of someone he knew well, someone he had lost many years ago. Enrico began to tremble, and feeling the weight of the revelation, he left the gallery in a hurry without saying a word. Leonardo and Sophia, concerned, tried to follow him, but he was already out of sight. That night, Enrico couldn't sleep. He was consumed by memories of the past, memories he had buried deep. He remembered a woman he had loved in his youth, a woman with whom he had had a brief but intense relationship. That woman, whom he abandoned due to family pressures, was Sophia's mother. The revelation was a devastating blow to Enrico. He realized that Sophia, the woman he despised and saw as a threat to his legacy, was in fact his own daughter. He had punished his son, Leonardo, by forcing him to marry his own sister, unaware of Sophia's true identity. As Enrico grappled with this new reality, he knew he had to reveal the truth to Leonardo and Sophia. But the pain of the discovery and the fear of the consequences paralyzed him. How could he tell them? How could he face the fact that he himself had caused so much suffering? Days passed, and Enrico decided that the only way to deal with the situation was to tell the truth. He called Leonardo and Sophia for a meeting at his mansion without revealing the reason. When they arrived, Enrico was visibly shaken, something Leonardo had never seen before. He asked them to sit down, and with a trembling voice, he began to tell his story, from his youth to the moment he abandoned the woman he now knew was Sophia's mother. The revelation was devastating for Leonardo and Sophia. They sat in silence, processing the enormity of what they had just heard. Sophia, in particular, was crushed, feeling betrayed and confused. The man she had begun to love was, in fact, her brother, and the father she never knew had been the one responsible for her misery and that of her mother. After Enrico's devastating revelation, Leonardo and Sophia's world fell apart. The news left them emotionally shattered, unable to comprehend how they could move forward. Leonardo, who had always admired and respected his father, now found himself facing a moral and emotional dilemma that seemed insurmountable. He didn't know how to deal with the pain of discovering that his wife was actually his sister, and that his father had been responsible for so much suffering. Sophia, on the other hand, was consumed by a mixture of anger, sadness, and despair. She found herself torn between the love she had begun to feel for Leonardo and the horror of discovering that he was her brother. Additionally, her resentment towards Enrico grew, knowing that he had abandoned her mother and contributed to her difficult life. They both decided to take some time apart. Leonardo went to the family's countryside house in Tuscany, while Sophia sought refuge at Chiara's house, her friend and gallery owner. During this time, both faced intense moments of reflection and self-questioning. At the countryside house, Leonardo isolated himself from the world. He spent days reflecting on his life, his choices, and the future that now seemed to be in ruins. Questioned whether he could continue living in Florence, knowing that society would soon discover the truth. But at the same time, he remembered the moments of happiness he shared with Sophia and how she had brought light into his life. Despite the pain, he realized that the love he felt for her was real, though complicated. Meanwhile, in Florence, Sophia immersed herself in her art as a way of coping with the pain. Paintings she began to create were intense, filled with emotion and complexity. Chiara, always by her side, encouraged her to channel her emotions into her work. Gradually, Sophia realized that despite everything, she still had control over her life and her future. She decided that, regardless of the past, she would choose how to live from now on. Sophia began to rebuild her confidence and accept that her life didn't have to be defined by Enrico's past mistakes. She decided she wouldn't let the suffering of the past destroy what she and Leonardo had built together. After weeks apart, Leonardo and Sophia decided to meet and talk. The meeting was tense and filled with emotions. They both knew that their lives had changed forever and that any decision they made would carry profound consequences. Sitting in a quiet park in Florence, they spoke openly about their pain, fears, and hopes. Sophia shared her decision to move forward with her life, regardless of what happened between them. She stated that she wanted to continue painting and was determined to find a new path for herself. Leonardo, in turn, confessed that despite all the suffering, he still loved her and couldn't imagine his life without her. He suggested that although they knew a marriage between them was impossible, they could continue to support and love each other in another way. They decided then to remain as life and art partners, recognizing that the love between them transcended conventions and the tragedies of the past. However, there was still something to be resolved with Enrico. They both knew he was suffering from guilt and regret. They decided to confront him together, not to punish him, but to find a way to move forward as a family despite the difficult circumstance. Leonardo and Sophia returned to Florence, determined to face Enrico and resolve the situation once and for all. The tension was high as they approached the family mansion. The silence between them reflected the gravity of the moment, but also their determination to find a way out of the pain that everyone was feeling. Upon arriving at the mansion, they were greeted by a visibly worn-out Enrico. He had aged considerably in the past few days, the weight of guilt and regret marking his face. He knew that this conversation would be difficult, perhaps the most difficult of his life, but he also knew it was necessary. Inside the mansion, the three of them sat in a large living room where so many family memories had been created. The atmosphere was heavy with emotion, and for a moment, none of them could find the right words to begin. Finally, Enrico, with a broken voice, began to speak. He confessed the depth of his regret, not only for what he had done to Sophia and Leonardo, but also for allowing pride and social conventions to keep him away from true love. He admitted that deep down, he had always known that his behavior was wrong, but the fear of losing respect and status had prevented him from doing what was right. Leonardo, still bitter, asked his father why he had been so cruel, not only by abandoning them, but by forcing the marriage between him and Sophia. Enrico, crying, explained that initially it was just a way of punishment and control, but he never imagined that it would lead them to fall in love. He never intended to hurt them this way. Fate had proven to be cruel and ironic. Sophia, on the other hand, remained silent as she listened to everything, trying to process the pain and confusion she felt. Finally, she stood up and, with unexpected strength, told Enrico that despite all the suffering, she was willing to forgive him. She knew that carrying the weight of hatred and resentment would only destroy her further. She wanted to move forward, free from the shadow of the past, and the only way to do that was by forgiving. Leonardo, seeing Sofia's courage and compassion, felt moved to do the same. He looked at his father, who was in tears, and after a long pause, said that he was also willing to forgive him, but that they would need time to rebuild the trust and love within the family. He knew the path would be long and painful. He believed that, with time, they could find peace. Enrico, relieved and still in tears, deeply thanked his two children. He promised to spend the rest of his life trying to make up for the harm he caused, and above all, to support Sofia and Leonardo in anything they needed. He knew he could never erase the past, but he hoped that somehow he could help build a better future for all of them. And then Enrico embraced them, sealing a pact of redemption, love, and hope. They knew that the wounds would take time to heal, but they were determined to move forward together as a family. In the days that followed, life began to change for Leonardo, Sofia, and Enrico. Though the pain of the past was still present, there was a renewed sense of hope and determination to build something new and better. Leonardo and Sofia decided to continue their lives together, no longer as husband and wife, but as life and art partner, united by a deep and unbreakable bond. The decision to forgive Enrico brought an unexpected relief to both of them. They realized that by letting go of resentment and anger, they were making room for healing, personal growth. Enrico, for his part, began dedicating himself to charitable work in Florence, trying to atone for the harm he had caused. He became a quiet benefactor of several institutions that helped single mothers and people in vulnerable situations, as a form of penance for his past mistake. Meanwhile, Sofia continued to paint, and her works began to gain even more recognition. The pain and resilience she had experienced were reflected in her paintings, which were now considered masterpieces of emotional expression. Chiara, her friend and gallery owner, organized a special exhibition for Sofia, where her new works were presented to the public for the first time. The exhibition was an absolute success, attracting the attention of critics and collectors from all over Italy. Leonardo, inspired by Sofia's strength, decided to resume his career as a lawyer, but with a different purpose. He began specializing in social justice cases, helping those who were unjustly treated or neglected by society. His work brought him a new sense of fulfillment, and he became a respected and admired lawyer. Enrico, in an effort to restore his family's trust, decided to transfer the management of the family business to Leonardo. He recognized that for his son to flourish and feel valued, he needed to give him the responsibility and autonomy to lead. Leonardo accepted the challenge with humility, knowing this was an opportunity to create a new legacy, free from the mistakes of the past. Life at the Toscani family mansion began to transform. The atmosphere, once marked by tension and rigid expectations, became a place of warmth and renewal. Sofia and Leonardo, though no longer married, continued to live in the mansion, transforming it into a center for art and culture. The space, once reserved only for the elite, was now accessible to everyone, especially those who did not have the same privilege. Enrico, who had decided to live in a separate wing of the mansion, dedicated himself to writing a book about his life, failures, and the lessons he had learned. He wanted to leave the world an honest account of his journey, as a testament that even the gravest mistakes can be redeemed with humility and sincere repentance. In the final moments of the story, we see Leonardo and Sofia in the mansion's garden, watching a group of young artists painting and creating their works. They exchange a knowing look, realizing that despite everything, they have found a new purpose and a new kind of love, one that transcends the conventions and pains of the past. The legacy of the Toscani family, once marked by wealth and power, is now remembered for its contribution to art and justice. And while the scars of the past never fully disappear, they serve as a constant reminder that true redemption and happiness come from the ability to forgive, love, and move forward despite adversity. 5 years have passed since that sad day at the Toscani mansion, and everyone's lives have been profoundly transformed. Time brought new opportunities, healed old wounds, and strengthened the bonds that were once so fragile. Sofia, now a renowned artist in Italy and beyond, traveled the world exhibiting her works, which not only reflected her personal journey, but also touched on universal themes of resilience and overcoming adversity. Her latest exhibition in New York was critically acclaimed, solidifying her place as one of the most powerful voices in contemporary art. Leonardo, for his part, continued to expand his work as a social justice lawyer. He had founded a nonprofit organization that provided free legal assistance to those most in need, and his efforts were recognized with awards and honors. But more important than any public recognition was the positive impact he was having on people's lives. The Toscani family mansion, which he now managed, had become a symbol of transformation and altruism. Enrico, in his final years, found the peace he had long sought. His book, published under the title The Price of Pride, became a bestseller, not only for its honest writing, but because it deeply resonated with those who had also faced the dilemma between pride and love. He donated all the profits to charity, continuing his commitment to redemption until the end. The story of the Toscani family became a powerful example of how love, forgiveness, and resilience can transform even in the most desperate situations. Enrico's legacy, once associated with power and oppression, was rewritten by generosity and the sincere desire to do good. Leonardo and Sofia learned that despite the difficulties and painful choices, there is always a way to move forward and find happiness. They demonstrated that a person's true worth lies not in possessions or status, but in the ability to love and care for others, even when it means sacrificing something personal. The love between them, which began so unexpectedly and with so many challenges, transformed into an unbreakable bond. They were no longer husband and wife, but they became partners in life, in art, and in justice, united by a common mission to do good and leave the world a little better than they found it. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more emotional narratives like this, and share your opinion in the comments. We really want to know what you thought of this journey of love, forgiveness, and overcoming adversity. Your participation is very important to us. Let's have some fun with those who only read the comments. They won't understand. Type Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who make it to the end will get it.